Hey, everybody. Welcome back to This Daring Adventure. Today, I have a special guest on the podcast. It's Lisa Kalmin. With 38 years of transformational coaching, Lisa has helped over 50,000 individuals shift their perspectives, realize their potential, and experience breakthroughs and access true abundance. As the author of the award-winning book, The Problem is How You See the Problem, and co-founder of WorldWorks trainings and Inspire Coaching, Lisa is a passionate advocate for personal growth, believing everyone is just one conversation away from a breakthrough. Please welcome Lisa Kalmin. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Oh, thank you, Trish. I'm so excited to be here, and we've gotten to chat a few times. I just love what you open up for people and support people in. And my name is Lisa Kalmin. I am a transformational coach, trainer. I call myself like a mindset wizard. I'm really good at seeing the way that people see things so that they can shift their worldview and the way they're looking at something and their beliefs, their mindset. So it opens up a whole nother world of opportunity for them. So I've been doing that for literally 38 years. So I'm not a new chicken on that block. And about 10 years ago, I started to dive into money and our beliefs around money, our relationship with money, as well as how to have money flow. So that's what I've been doing recently. And then with my business partner, we do what we call our badass women's leadership retreat and series. So a little of this, a little of that. So it's super good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and all of my work does focus a lot on managing our minds and the
Hmm.
mindset similar to yours. And the one thing that really interested me was the work that you do with money.
Yeah.
As I think in one of our conversations, I mentioned I haven't done a lot in that area in the work that I've been doing in my podcast or in much of it. When I work with my clients, if they are a coach or I have an
Hmm.
artist or a, a businesswoman, we do talk about an income goal. And I think that's very helpful. I make sure I have an income goal. And so I want to make sure that they have an income goal just to use it as something to
Yeah.
grow and evolve and work
Yes.
for.
Yes.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about the work you do around money and money miracles and money flow and all the
Thank
things?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me just say when you have someone you're working with give you a goal, an income goal, that's really valuable. I saw some research a couple years ago, and something like when we tell ourselves a goal internally and don't say it out loud or write it down, it has a less than 10% chance of being accomplished. Once we write it down, it goes up to maybe over 20, something like that. If we communicate it, it's over 40. And if we have an accountability partner, we say the goal to an accountant, as you are as a coach, and your coaches are for their clients, it goes over 90% chance of accomplishment. So the making the goal, the speaking the goal, the telling someone about the goal, and giving them permission to hold you accountable to the goal makes all the difference. So keep doing that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Interesting.
So, as you were saying, you haven't done much money belief work, and I hadn't either. Like again, I had been doing this work for maybe almost 30 years, over 25 years, and whereas my general work with people is a broad shift in their mindset and their in a relationship with themselves and other people, especially I hadn't gone deeper with our money beliefs. And I got here because I myself had an inconsistent experience with money. Like there'd be times when money would flow and I'd be like, yeah, and I didn't know exactly like what am I doing? And I'd be doing then a year later doing the same exact thing and it tightens up and is scarce. And it wasn't about the economy at the time. It was about whatever was going on with me. I know enough to know that. So I began looking at what is money? How do you have it flow? What's in the way of it flowing? And my first insight or realization was money is not this thing. Like we think of it as a thing, or we think of it as a something we use it to get, like a tool. And if you think about what money was maybe 500, 600 years ago, or 400 years ago, it was an exchange of things like pelts or furs or spices or something like that. And then we had these coins, gold, silver, copper. And then it was cash, which I still like, by the way. I still like cash. Then we used checks, which I still write a couple of checks a year. It's crazy. And then these plastic little things called credit cards, then debit cards. And now this is what everybody uses. Click, click, click. And with e-currency, we don't even know where it is. Like we can't even find it. So money is not this thing. Money is an exchange of energy. It's energy. It's an exchange of energy for perceived value, really perceived value. So it's an exchange of energy because everything is ultimately energy. If we think about it, whether it's our body, whether it's our furniture or whatever, if you take it down to its tiny, smallest particle, molecule, it's just energy bouncing around. So if money is energy or an exchange of energy, it can be attracted and it can flow. So that got me started. And then I began to look at what is it that stops the flow and what is it that opens the flow. So that's how I frame this. And one last thing I'll say is there's enough money. There's actually more money in the world right now than there was when you and I started this conversation 5, 6 minutes ago.
Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yes, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So then how do you help your clients create, attract, and allow for that flow, basically?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing I love to work with people about is what are the things that are not conscious to you, that you're not present to, that are blocking the flow? Okay. So one of the things that blocks our flow of money is and you've done work with people around this in other ways, is our limiting beliefs or our stops around money. And so I literally ask people to go back to childhood before they were 10 years old. Really, most of it's done before we're 5 or 6, Our belief system's pretty set up. And go back to the childhood and two things. Look at what was modeled, not just what was communicated about money, but particularly what was modeled around money from your quote family of origin, the people you're around. It could be mom and dad, it could be mom, it could be dad, it could be grandparents and aunties and uncles or neighborhood, whatever. And not just again what you were told, because there are some, let me expand to the big picture. There's some like beliefs out there, and I say culturally, I know where some of them started, that are automatically downloaded to us as human beings. So, for example, we've all heard the quote, money is the root of all evil, which is, as we know, a misquote from the Bible, because the quote is the love of money is the root of all evil, which means the attachment and the greed around it. So, but it's been sort of commonly spoken, money is the root of all evil. Well, nobody wants to be evil. And if that's unconsciously or subconsciously downloaded, we're going to unconsciously push money away. So that'd be an example of culturally what you have to work hard to make a lot of money. That's another one that doesn't mean don't work, and it doesn't mean you can just sit there and go bring it. And we know plenty of people who work their rear end off and don't make a lot of money, and people who don't work so hard and make lots of money, both. So the piece that gets really powerful for people is spend some time journaling. What was modeled for me around money in terms of saving money, making money, investing money, losing money? And I've had people tell me when they looked at this, things like this, oh my gosh, my parents never talked about money, but when we went to sleep, they would argue about money. We could hear them arguing. So money became this sort of representation of conflict, something like that. I have one personally. I grew up in the 70s. It was the first energy crisis, whatever that was. And I would walk around my house, and we were middle class. We weren't super wealthy. We definitely had food, roof over our head, nothing awful. And literally, though, I would walk out of a room, my dad would follow me and turn the lights out. He would just follow me around and turn the lights out, whatever room I was in. So he never said anything. He wasn't like really judgmental or that way, but his modeling was, oh, there must not be enough. When that gets transcended. So there's so much there that people can look at and see what, and it could be cultural. I'm Jewish. I grew up, and there was this belief we'd always have enough money. Like, again, not super wealthy, but I've never in my life worried about being homeless because I know I will always have enough. And my parents are long gone now. God bless their souls. It's not going to come from them, but it's just ingrained in me. It's
Interesting.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's one way. Yeah.
Right. So then we've cleared up the limiting beliefs. We've identified those. We can work through
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
let them go, start to shift our mindset around there. And then how do we start believing
Opening
something
flow.
new and opening the
Yeah.
flow?
Yeah. Well, let me hit one more limit that can turn into a possibility. And I use this analogy. People have heard this and used this before. I call it your money set point. And if you think about a thermometer, put a thermometer in a room, it goes up and down based on the conditions. If it's hot, it's up. If it's cold, it's down. A thermostat actually sets the conditions of the environment. If you set it at 70, you're going to have 70 degrees or whatever it is in Celsius for our Canadian European fans.
Mhm.
We have a money set point somewhere. We all do. Like for some people, it's income. Like they change jobs or they start a business, whatever, and it's always the same amount of money coming in. For some people, it's more like what's left over. Like no matter what they do, like how much money comes in, they always have the same amount left over at the end of the month. Some folks, it's debt. Have you ever had debt and then worked really hard to get it down? And then something happens, the water heater breaks or the car breaks, and all of a sudden it's back up.
Right.
And or even savings, similar. You get savings to a certain place. Oh, I got my 6 or 3 months of living expenses, and then boom, again, you've got to spend it on something. So we have this set point, and so one of the noticing it, and then one of the things I like things I can remember. So in terms of an affirmation to begin to shift it, just turn it into a simple, easy affirmation. I am so happy and grateful for the $75,000 I have in my savings account. I'm so happy and grateful for having less than $1,000 of debt, other than mortgage or something. I'm so happy and grateful for the X amount coming into my bank account every month, or I'm so happy and grateful for the 3 new high paying clients I generated, whatever that is.
Okay.
So begin that. And then just to say, how do we open it up? To follow that up, one of the things that actually does work is affirmations. And when really long time ago, I used to think affirmation, that's a bunch of hooey. That's just wishful thinking. And what happens is when we declare something as if it is so, and an affirmation is declaring what you want as if it is so. So we never want to say something like, oh, I'm so glad my aching back stopped hurting. You never want to affirm what you don't want. You want to affirm what you do want. I'm so, I'm so thankful for my health and energy or whatever. But when you say an affirmation, your subconscious starts to organize to bring it into reality. Now, I've had a ton of people, including myself, say, look, I know affirmations can work. One of the things about affirmations, let me step back 1 second. When you say the affirmation, you have to be in the energy of the affirmation. You can't be like, oh, I'm so excited for my $100,000 check. And like, you've got to line up your energy with it, the vibrations. Dr. Joe Dispenza does a lot of work around this. People have heard of him. He's very well known and awesome. And so you got to match that. Now, I've also met people who say, look, I can do the affirmations, but there's always this part of me in the back of my head. I'm like, that's not really true. Like this little bit of cognitive dissonance or whatever you would call it. So I heard one time, and I thought this was brilliant. If you have that, instead of affirming, like just say, I have $100,000 in the bank, ask what's called a lofty question. Ask a lofty question like this. Why do I have $100,000 in my bank account? Why is money flowing into my life so frequently and so abundantly? Why am I generating and attracting clients every week, whatever that is? Because again, very much like an affirmation, you have to start to, or God, the universe, however you have that, starts to organize to answer the question. So that opens up for people. They don't have to affirm it like it is, because if you have that tinge of self-doubt, just ask it in a question and be in that possibility. So that'll help open flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess as well, there needs to be an emotion attached to that
Yeah.
question as well, right?
Yeah. So I am always working with people about there's a pretty fundamental distinction around transformation and personal development called be, do, have. That if we want to have a bunch of money, let's say, or we want to have a relationship, or we want to have a business that's successful, yes, there's actions, that's the do part. Who did you get to be? What are the qualities you get to exude to make that happen? Well, if you think about if I did have tons of money, not so much what you would buy, but how would you feel? But if I was attracting clients, aligned clients every week, how would I feel? I'd feel joyful. I'd experience joy. I'd experience confidence. I'd experience gratitude, whatever it is. Start coming from those places. And then I, again, like you, work on the not physical level, the intangible level, and that helps the vibrations attract. Yeah.
And do you have a process for your clients? 'Cause some of the work that I do, I tell my clients, journal,
Yeah.
get your journal, like you're writing this every day. And like you mentioned, writing out the
Hmm.
goal. And I tell people to do this pretty much on a daily basis as much as possible.
Yes.
Otherwise, I find my brain just goes into the weeds or into the ditch, and it's very easy for the fear and the doubt and the overwhelm
Hmm.
to overtake and
Yeah.
become the predominant.
Abs- Absolutely. Absolutely. So aligned with what you're telling your clients, the process is declare your goal every day or commitment. And sometimes, let's say you have a goal for the end of the month. The goal is I want $20,000 of revenue. Okay. Well, every day, what are the qualities you get to exude that day that align with that goal? So, as we say, Rome wasn't built in a day. The goal comes from daily energy, motivation, and then obviously some action steps, which I'm sure you support your clients in. So, in terms of loosening up their money conversation, first of all, I can also send you 4 prompts that people can journal about. And just especially around the 3 or 4 around the family of origin, just to journal and notice what they notice. Because oftentimes just that helps people go, oh my gosh, my dad was so loose with money. My mom was so tight with money. No wonder I'm like, schizophrenic about money and spending it and doing all that. Yeah, it can reveal that. And then the set point, and then along with affirmations, I am very supportive of people. Two other things. One, practice of gratitude, but again, not gratitude like, oh, I did my gratitude list. I one time had a client say to me, I know I'm supposed to do my gratitude list. And I'm like, well, stop, don't do it from there. Because that's not the point. The point is, how do we be grateful in the moment for exactly what we have? Yeah,
Yes.
I have a friend of mine who's a personal development trainer, and she's been doing this since the 70s. And she's like, every time something happens you don't like, she goes, how does it get better than this? Like flat tire. How does it get better than this? It's like,
Yeah.
And she's very abundant. It's really great. So gratitude from a place of like really feeling and being present to the moment,
Mm.
not just something we're supposed to do, like floss our teeth, like that.
Yeah.
And then I'm a big fan of vision boards.
Okay.
I'm a
I was
big
going to ask you about visualization of,
Yes, visualization vision boards. And I'll tell you, whether you do the poster with the magazine, and there's many virtual options. I love this one called subliminal vision boards because it does this take five and it flashes the pictures that you put in there really fast. The whole reason to do a vision board is in our brains, we have what's called the reticular activating system, which is super important because it's what keeps us from jumping off a building thinking, oh, it'd be so fun to fly. Let me try it. It reasons us out of crazy stuff. It also limits some of what we believe is possible. So what we see visually bypasses that. So it's why a vision board, and you've heard many people talk about the effect of vision boards and how it turned out, and that actually helps bypass that that automatic sort of reasonable, you can't have this unconscious thoughts and starts your mind working to bring it into being. You see, your mind doesn't know if it's past, present, or future. It's that's why when you say if we speak our limiting beliefs or our old tapes to ourselves, that's what we're gonna have. Because your mind is just going, oh, that's what you want, a relationship that sucks. Okay, I'll give you that. Vision boards are great. Vision boards you can do virtually again or whatever. And then the last thing I say that as a way to open up flow really simply is what I call outflow. So outflow, energetic outflow, where you're giving, yes, and you're generous, but there's just you could be a outflow could be opening the door for an older person. Outflow could be cooking a meal for your family that really makes them happy. Outflow could be listening, being a generous listener with a friend. Your podcast is a form of outflow. You're contributing to people who listen to you in a very open hearted way, any kind of outflow. Now, for people who are introverts who are like, I'm an introvert, it doesn't have to be loud and it doesn't have to be boisterous and you don't have to have a podcast. It's just being in sort of like your energy. You're not like this,
right.
protected, untrusting, angry, frustrated. You're more like, okay.
Is
And
it
again,
is it
you
like
don't have to do a bunch.
service? Like is it in the
That's a
service?
form of outflow.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You pick up groceries for your elderly neighbor, give the homeless person a couple bucks, whatever it is.
Right. And you just
Any
trust
kind.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have a statement, and you can again substitute God if that's important to you. The universe is in perfect order. Like whatever flows out has to flow in, and it always is. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen in 5 minutes. If I'm generous with myself and I'm outflowing, I doesn't mean somebody's going to come be a client in 5 minutes. A month from now, my car might break down and somebody might help me out. Who knows? You got to trust. There's big capital T trust in all this too.
Right. And then do you have sort of a belief, or I guess it's a direction where you just act like it's already done, like you be that person who has that success or that money or whatever it is that you're working towards?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just think about the kind of people that you like to work with, or if you have folks who are coaches or whatever, who's the kind of coach somebody they want is going to want to work with? It's somebody who's already being confident, open, engaging, in service, supportive, etc. That's why I ask people sometimes, okay, what do you want? Okay, well, I want a relationship. Why do you want a relationship? Well, I want to feel loved. I want to feel connected. I want to feel important. I want to feel heard and seen. Okay, great. Well, you just told yourself how to go out in the world and be because you're going to attract, like we sometimes do this process where like, how many of you want a 10 relationship? I do. Okay. All right, great. And what would you rate most of your relationships? And somebody will say, oh, a 7, or most of my past relationships are a 3 or a 7 or a whatever. Okay. Well, how many times have we gone out there pretending to be a 10, thinking the other person's a 10, find out they're a 7, they find out we're a 6. We're like, we're not being what we want to attract. So we want to get it first, and then we'll, like, yeah, once I have the relationship, then I'll be happy, and then I'll open up, and then I'll be joyful, and then I'll love myself. You've taught for a long time. It's the opposite way. That's upside down.
Yes.
Same with money, same with abundance. You
Right.
know, we have an abundant universe. It's expanding. So again, believing that there's enough, believing, and look, you've done great work with people. I do some of this work with people. If someone has a deep rooted, unworthy conversation or lack of value, that's going to show up in money, because money's one of the ways we measure value. I do this whole thing about women under earning and blah, 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 for that
It's
exact reason.
right. And I think a lot of it comes down to we don't have these conversations. We
Yeah.
really don't have, nobody talks to us about money. And if I was to do another program or another business, I would probably do something to work with young women and say,
Mhm.
what is it you
Yeah.
want? And let's discuss what might be possible. I'm still
Yeah.
having these conversations with women in their 50s,
Yeah.
right? Who are like,
Yeah.
well, it's not about the money and
Yeah. We apologize
right?
somehow. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of statistics on this, which we could get to another time. But women apologize for asking for their value.
Mm.
And whether that,
Just what they
yeah,
want. It's not even like, what do
or
you,
anything they want.
right?
Yeah. True. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. So until you look at where I call it your money blueprint, because whatever the blueprint got set up when you were younger, that's what you've built your house of money on. And some of that, again, is family of origins. A lot for women, a lot of it's cultural. Women
Absolutely.
still make what, in the 80% something range of men for
Yeah,
the
it might
same
be
job?
70 something. Yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah.
70 something. Yeah, I saw the statistic recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm going to have more conversations about money with my clients and in general
Good.
in my podcast going forward. Definitely I think this
Great.
is really interesting and worthwhile work. So thank you very much for
Great.
sharing
You're welcome.
your
You're
knowledge
welcome.
and your expertise.
And yeah, remember that if money is energy, it can be attracted and flow. If your energy is stuck, you're going to have stuck money. You're going to probably have
Mhm.
stuck relationships too. Everything, we're in relationship with everything, including other people, but also money, ourselves, the world around us. And if my energy is stuck, if it's suppressed, if fear-based or unconfident, that's going to get in the way of me attracting flow.
Right. And okay, so have you ever looked or used tapping? Like
Yes,
EFT tapping?
yes. There's actually a book. You
Okay.
can probably read this book, Tapping into Wealth.
Okay.
There's a book called Tapping into Wealth. I download, put it on your Audible and do it. Yes, yes. I actually use tapping in my course.
Do
Yeah,
you? Okay. Okay.
yeah, because that's unlocks some stuff. And if people are into meditation or chakras, your money stuff is generally located in your root chakra, which is our security chakra. It's that bottom sacral sit bone area that's the root and stability of our lives. And that's money is much associated with that. So when you
Mm.
clear that energy as well, you can start clearing up some money stuff. So there's lots of ways to get to it: somatic, emotional, you know,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
mental. Yeah. And just remember one thing I say to people: if your motivation for having more money comes from a sort of a disingenuous root, it won't work out. It's not going to bring you the happiness you want, because the roots create the fruits. For example, I have met people along the way this is mostly men, but their dad was super critical and was judgmental. You'll never be anything. You're never going to measure up. And they have spent their life to prove that they can. So maybe they become successful and wealthy, but they're never really satisfied.
Right.
Look, we know plenty of people with very little money who are happy and plenty of people with a lot of money who aren't. It's not the money that makes it. It's what's the energy around it.
And it's the same with anything, right? The
Yeah.
job, the house, the car, the relationship,
Spouse.
all those things. It's not going to make you happy. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Anyway, so fun. I'll send you
yes,
those prompts as well.
that would be great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And I'll put the
Yeah.
book title in the
Great.
note.
Did I send you a free gift? I do have a free gift.
No, but you can do
Oh,
that. Yeah, that would be
okay,
great.
great. I'd love to do that
Yeah.
because here's what it is. It is a quiz for people to take to see what their money mindset is.
Oh, okay.
And when you go on the quiz, it's mostly directed towards women who are under earning, but the quiz is generic. It worked for men or women, and I know you work with a lot of women. So the quiz, you take the quiz, you add it up, and then it give you a second prompt where you look at, am I a money attractor? Am I a money manager? Am I in my scarcity? Am I just to take a snapshot for where you are now, as long as you answer the quiz honestly. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll send you that and the prompts.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to put those in the show notes.
Yeah, great. I'd love that.
Maybe tell people where they can find you. I will put all your contact information in the show notes, but
Great, great.
where
You
can they
can find
find
me
you?
easiest is on social. I'm on Facebook, I'm Lisa Kalmin. On Instagram, I'm Lisa Kalmin. On LinkedIn, I'm Lisa Kalmin. Really easy. I have a website that I'm redoing and so that's lisakalmin.com. So just my name. You'll find me.
Perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
easy peasy. Great. Well, thank you, Lisa, for your time. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm sure everybody will find it super useful, and we look forward to the gift and the prompts. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that. I love this conversation. I love talking to people who work with people around something beyond just getting some result done. And I know you do that. And I've loved your podcasts as I've listened to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All
Yeah.
right. We'll have you back sometime to
Okay.
continue.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Okay. Bye.